Okay, so here, this is the solving equations worksheet that you could find on Canvas. So it's just going to give us some examples to work just so we can make sure that we understand how to solve. So remember, solving is a process. So once you know the process, it really doesn't matter what kind of equation you're given. So here we have negative 3 times y plus 3 equals 2y plus 3. So we always follow order of operations. So we're going to deal with the parentheses, so we're going to distribute through with that negative 3. So negative 3y minus 9 equals 2y plus 3. So remember where your equal sign is. If you need to draw a line, draw your line. So what are we looking at? You look at your left side and you look at your right side to see if anything can simplify. So on the left, nothing can combine. On the right, nothing can combine. So then what do we look? We look and we see we have y's, multiple y's, but they're separated by the equal sign. So once you check to see if you can simplify on the left and the right side, then what you should do is try to get any variable components together that need to be together. So these y's need to come together. So I'm going to move the 2y to the 3y. So we would subtract it from itself, cross the equal sign, subtract it from its like term. So negative 5y minus 9 equals 3. Then we're going to move the 9, because remember, we're solving. Well, what does solve mean? Well, solve means that we are trying to isolate the variable on one side, right, in the process. So we're looking for a solution when we're solving, and the solution is found by isolating the variable on one side. So y needs to get alone. So the 9 is going to add, because opposite operation, and so the negative 5y comes down, equal to 12. We have negative 5 times y, so we divide both sides by negative 5. So y is equal to negative 12 over 5. All right, you do not need to write it as a decimal. You should leave it in its fraction form. Just make sure it's lowest terms and no mixed numbers. Just lowest terms. When you put it in your calculator and it gives you a decimal, then you know just leave it as whatever the fraction is. And you can just check to make sure that it's lowest terms. All right, next. Again, we have parentheses, so we're going to have to distribute. So here we go. So negative 6a plus 10 equals negative 4a minus 16, right? So I have my a's that need to come together. So I'm going to add 4a to itself, cross the equal sign, right? So negative 2a plus 10 equals negative 16. So remember, my goal is to get a isolated, so I'm going to subtract 10 from itself, cross the equal sign, and subtract it from the other side. So negative 2a equals negative 26. So then how do I get the a completely isolated? Well, the negative 2 would have to move, so I would divide both sides by negative 2. So a would equal 13. All right, next. 6x minus 4 equals 2 times 3x minus 2. So we want to distribute. So we get 6x minus 4 equals 6x minus 4. All right. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to get the x's together. So I would move this 6x. So subtract. As you can see, I always like my variables on the left side. But if you like yours on the right side, it doesn't matter. Just as long as you follow opposite operation when you're crossing the equal sign, you could always get the correct answer, right? So as long as you follow the process, you should always come out with the right answer, okay? Just make sure you're simplifying correctly as well. So when we do that, look what happens. 6x minus 6x cancels. On the left side, 6x minus 6x also cancels. So we're left with a negative 4 equal to a negative 4. So what does that mean? Well, this problem here is an example of one of the special cases when it comes to solving an equation. Special case number 1. So special case number 1, what happens is your variable disappears. And what you're left with is a statement that says negative 4 equals negative 4. So is that true? It is true. So negative 4 does equal negative 4. So you end up with a true statement, but you have no variable component. So remember, when we're solving an equation, there's a variable we're supposed to be solving for. So when the variables cancel out, it opens up special cases. And the first special case is if you have where your variables cancel out and you are left with a true statement like we have here, negative 4 equals negative 4, that means that the solution to the equation is all real numbers. All real numbers. So all real numbers means that it does not mean what value of x you were to plug into that equation, you would get a true statement. You can pick anything, any number on the real number line, and it would create a true statement. So every number on the real number line is a solution to this equation. Okay, so my variables cancel out and I was left with a true statement, so that means all real numbers is the solution. Okay, all real numbers is the solution. True is not the solution. -4 equals -4 is not the solution. All real numbers is the solution. Okay, all right, next. -6x plus 9 equals, we're going to distribute the 4 here, 20 minus 4x. So I'm going to get my x's together. So I'm going to add 4x to itself and do what? Cross the equal sign, right? So -2x. Be careful. Make sure that you're crossing the equal sign when you're doing opposite operation. So now I have a positive 9. So I'm going to subtract it. So -2x equals 11. And then -2 times x. So I'm going to divide both sides by -2. So x equals -11 over 2. All right. All right. Let's look at this one. 3 times x plus 2 equals -5 minus 2 times x minus 3. So this is a really good problem because we're going to distribute here, right? But it's also important to understand that you cannot on this right side do -5 minus 2. Order of operations says you would have to do the parentheses, and if you can't do anything in the parentheses, then you would have to distribute because multiplication is a process that must be completed before subtraction. So order of operations is important, right? So remember, everything in algebra is built off of a basic mathematical concept. So anything that you've forgotten, you need to remember, right? So don't be down on yourself. Just put in time and effort to make sure that you're paying attention to the small things. Like, that's how you're going to be successful. Don't give up. Like, give into what is happening, which is I have forgotten a lot of old information. I need to make sure that I'm putting in extra time so that I can brush up on those small things that I don't remember or that I have forgotten. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And of course, that only will matter if your goal is to be successful in the class, right? But I figure if you're watching my video, you want to pass. So I'm going to just always help you be able to be successful. So here we go. So 3x plus 6 equals -5 minus 2x plus 6. All right, so what do we do? Well, you're supposed to look at each side of the equation to see if anything can simplify. So on the left side, no like terms. On the right side, I do have this 5 plus this 6. So I can combine those. And remember, we're simplifying where we are. Nobody is crossing the equal sign. That is the only time you should be doing opposite operation, meaning you could change a positive into a negative, right? But if they're not crossing an equal sign, then they would just combine as they are. So 5 plus 6 is 11. All right, so now I want my 2x over, cross the equal sign. So 5x plus 6 equals 11. So now what? So we should subtract 6. And we should divide by 5. So x is equal to 1. Okay? All right. 17. So 17 has fractions, but it doesn't change anything about the process when we're doing these equations, right? And so you can just use your calculator, but you just follow the same process for solving. So the process for solving, I can't simplify anything on the left. I can't simplify anything on the right. So I have these x's that I want to get together. So I'm going to relocate the 9/10 x across to the 4/5. So how would that move? Well, it's positive 9/10 x. So I'm going to subtract it, right? Because we're moving that whole term. So you could just put this in your calculator, 4/5 minus 9/10, right? I don't have a calculator, so. But it would be 4 ABC 5 minus 9 ABC 10. So I'm going to do it by hand. So I have to get an LCD So my denominator didn't change there. Here, I went from a 5 to a 10, so I times 2, right? So 8 minus 9 is negative 1/10. Minus, don't forget my x, equals 1/2. So now I'm trying to get my x by itself, so I would add 1 to both sides. So negative 1/10 x equals, so 1/2 plus 1 is 1.5. But we should use improper fractions. Okay, so negative 1/10 x equals 3/2. So then we would do what? Divide by negative 1/10. But what does it mean to divide by a fraction? Well, to divide by a fraction really means to simply multiply by its reciprocal. Basic rules, right? Basic rules. So again, you could just put it in your calculator, 3/2 divided by negative 1/10, right? But by hand, it is a multiplication of the reciprocal. So it cancels out on the left. And on the right, we're looking at negative 30/2, so negative 5. Okay? All right, let's do some more. Okay, let's skip down to this one here that replaced 20 because I want to give you your second special case. So remember we had a first special case number 2. This looks terrible. Remember, I don't edit, so you just have to bear with me. Okay, so here we go. So when we work this problem, we would distribute here. So we get 2x plus 6 minus 5 equals 5x. Remember, we had distribute, so there's negative 3 minus 3x. So we're going to combine like terms. So I'll look on my left. So 2x plus 6 minus 5 is what? 1 equal to. So 5x minus 3x. So 2x minus 3, right? So I just combine them as they are because nobody is crossing the equal sign, so you can't do opposite operation. So now I want my x's together, so I'm going to minus the 2x on both sides. But the x's cancel out, and I'm left with 1 equal to negative 3. So remember on the last problem, the special case that we had, when our variables canceled out, we ended up with negative 4 equal to negative 4. Well, that was a true statement, and what did it mean? It meant that the answer was all real numbers, meaning any value can be placed in for the x, and we would get a true statement back. Well, what this one means is that the variables cancel out and we have something that's not true. This is a false statement, okay? This is a false statement. And so that means that there is no solution to this equation, which means there is no value of x that you could ever pull from the real number line that would ever make this a true statement. There's nothing you can ever substitute in for x that can make the left side equal to the right side, because when the variables are not there, you get something false. Okay, so there is no solution. That is the answer. Okay, so special case 1, your variables cancel out, you end up with a true statement, all real numbers. Special case number 2, your variables cancel out, you end up with a false statement, it's no solution. Okay, all right, so let's go. 18. So I recommend that you pause and actually do 18 and 19 on your own, and then start it back up to see if you get them correct. Okay, now I think you should be honest and actually do it, because the only way you can really learn math is to do math, and then we grow from our mistakes. So that's just me giving you heads up, okay? So here we go. 2x minus 6 equals x minus 1 plus 7. So we should have distributed, right? And there's an invisible 1 on outside of this set of parentheses, so it's just x minus 1, essentially. So I'm going to combine like terms. I'm going to move this x. So I get x minus 6 equals 6. Add 6 to both sides. X equals 12. Okay? So if you didn't get it, you should just look to see what you did wrong. Pay attention. Watch your signs. Make sure when you combine like terms here, realize that's a negative 1 plus a 7. Signs are different, so you subtract, keep the sign a little larger. Make sure you're putting it in your calculator correctly. All right, and the next one, we're distributing the negative 1, so negative x minus 7 equals negative 6x plus 8. Combine like terms, so plus 6x plus 6x. So 5x minus 7 equals 8, plus 7 on both sides. 5x equals 15, x equals 3. And that's it. Okay? So solving equations. Once you know the process, you can do any type of equation that you're given. And that's it.